When we get done, we'll check.
Okay, thank you.
What test is this?
Alright, so I'm just going to work through these the way that I did them, and then if you don't understand something or have a question, you can let me know. On number 1, simple order of operations, this is cumulative, everything that we've done so far, so you just got a smorgasbord of different types of problems. Doing the parentheses first on number 1, so when I did that, negative 10 minus 14 is negative 24, negative 24 divided by negative 3 is 8. So that would be what I'm looking at first off on the numerator. Now a lot of people did 3 minus 2 next, but that gets you wrong. That multiply comes next. So it would be 3 minus 16 minus 2. 3 minus 16 is negative 13. Negative 13 minus 2 is negative 15. So we have a numerator of negative 15. Now on the denominator, left to right, negative 43 minus 5 is negative 48. And negative 48 plus 49 is 1. So you got negative 15 over 1, which is negative 15, which is D. On number 2, it says to simplify the expression, and it has negative 12s plus 5t. I can't combine those because they're not like terms. I can't factor anything out because there's not a GCF, so that one can't be simplified.
D.
Which is D again. Number 3. We got negative 12 times 2z plus m. This time I can simplify because that negative 12 is right outside the parentheses, so I can distribute that to everything in. So that'll get me negative 24z minus 12m. And then that's as far as I can go on that, which is C. Alright, number 4, those problems like the investment, not the just investment, but the percentage, we did those first 9 weeks. It's been a long time ago. Walt made an extra $7,000 last year from a part-time job. He invested part of the money at 8%, so I'm going to say 0.08 times x, because that's, I don't know how much. So part of the money at 8%, and the rest of it at 6%. So 6% times the rest of it, well, it started off at $7,000, but I already took out x. So there would be the rest of it. Now, it's equal to $500. That's how much he said he made in interest. So that will be equal to 500. All right, so distribute that 0.06. I'm going to end up having 0.08x plus 0.06 times 7,000. That got me 420 minus 0.06x is equal to 500. Now your like terms, 0.08 minus 0.06 is 0.02x. Subtract your 420. 0.02x is equal to 80. Divide by your 0.02. And that got me x is 4,000. Now be careful because that's a choice, but that's wrong. X, if you look up at the top, was how much we invested at 8%. The question says, how much did you invest at 6%? Well, to get that, it says that we do 7,000 minus x. So 7,000 minus 4,000 means we invested 3,000. So we would need choice C on that one, 3,000. I hate it when they put 4,000 in there when you did all that work and got it. It only took one more step to finish, but a lot of people will pick 4,000. Tricky. Number 5. Are you ready? Ready? How many 5? leave you. I can hit the magic back button. I got negative 6 times 2x minus 1 is less than negative 18x plus 36. So first thing you need to do on this is distribute your negative 6. So that gets me negative 12x plus 6 is less than negative 18x plus 36. Now you get to decide what you want to do first here to start solving. When I did it on my own, I added 18x. So I'm going to do that again now. That got me 6x plus 6 is less than 36. Subtracted my 6. That got me 6x is less than 30. Divided by 6, and x was less than 5. So looking at the choices, I could mark out B and D because they had 18s in them and not 5s. So trying to decide between A and C, my x has got to be less than. So which one, A or C, shaded less than? A. Page 2. Alright, on 6, we got an easy little equation to solve. 10x plus 6 equals 10. First thing I would do would be to subtract my 6 from both sides to get me 10x is 4. Then I'm dividing by 10. 4/10, also known as 2/5, which is B. 7, 7. I think 7 and 8 are the same kind of problem if I remember right. Yep. On 7, if I go through the point 0, 3, I'd be up here at 0, 3. And then I have a slope of negative 1/3. So from that point, I go down 1 and right 3. So I should be a line looking similar to that for number 7. Looks like B. And number 8. Number 8 goes through the point 0, 2. And it has a slope of 1/4, so it would rise 1 and run 4. So it should look like that. Number 8, what does that look like? D. D. Alright, number 9 says tell how many solutions but don't actually solve. First off, you could solve if you want to and you would be able to tell how many there are. I'm going to do it without though to show you what they're wanting. If it has infinite many solutions, choice A on number 9, if a line has infinite many solutions, like if there's a line, infinite many solutions would mean it's the same line on top of it because it's intersecting infinite many times. That's infinite. If it has no solution, it would have to be parallel lines. That would be no solution. Then one solution are just two lines that intersect somewhere. That has one solution. Okay, so if I could get those two lines on number 9 to be in the same form, I could compare whether or not they are the same line or not and be able to tell which one of these it is. Because to be infinite right here, my first one that I drew, everything would have to be the same. The line would be exactly the same. To be parallel, they would just have to have the same slopes, but everything else would be different. And then intersect one time, it would just be two different lines. So since the bottom one's already solved for y, I'm going to solve the top one for y. So 3x minus 9y equals 6. I would subtract 3x from both sides. That would give me negative 9y equals negative 3x plus 6. Then I divide everything by negative 9. So that give me y equals negative 3 divided by negative 9 is a positive 1/3. 6 divided by negative 9 is a negative 2/3. So I'm comparing that equation to the other one that they gave me, and it's exactly the same, which means A, infinite many solutions. Now number 10, it says actually solve the system. So I'm going to do it using elimination. Everybody ready? Yeah. Alright, I'm looking at number 10 and I'm thinking I'm going to eliminate my y's. The top one already has a 2y, so I'm just going to rewrite it like it is. 3x plus 2y equals negative 3. The bottom one has a negative 1y, so I'm going to multiply everything in the second equation by 2. That would make that be a 4x minus 2y equals negative 18. Now I'm going to add those to eliminate the y's. So 3x and 4x is 7x. 2y and negative 2y is nothing. He gone. Negative 3 and negative 18 is negative 21. Divide by 7. And your x is negative 3. So that means you got to have negative 3 comma something. So you can already mark out A and D. Now plug that negative 3 back in for one of your x's to find your y. So I plugged it in the first one. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Plus 2y equals negative 3. Add your 9. 2y is 6. Divide by 2 and y is 3. So negative 3, 3 would be your answer, which was B.
Did you say you plugged in the very first one?
Yeah, I did, but you could do either one. But I did the first one.
We get to use it on the test.
Alright, on 11. Write it in descending powers of the variable. Which means you find the highest power and you go downhill from there. So your highest one's cubed. A and B both have a cube first. Which one of them has the right sign? Yeah, but is it supposed to be a positive or a negative?
Negative.
Negative, so it'd be A. Alright, on 12. F of x is 6x plus 2. And g of x is x plus 5. Wants us to find f of g of 4. Alright, so that means we plug the 4 into the g function first. You always start with the one on the inside. So the g function is x plus 5, so I'm going to do 4 plus 5, and that gets me a 9. Whatever you get on that one, you take and plug it into the other function. So I got to plug it into the f function. So 6 times 9 plus 2. 54 plus 2 is 56.
So wait, what did you plug in? You did 6 times 9 plus 2.
Uh-huh.
But so you added 5 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
Get 9.
Mm-hmm. Alright, on 13 it says factor completely. That is a difference of cubes pattern that you need there. You know, x cube's a perfect cube. You might not know 5/12 is a perfect cube, but by looking at the choices, I see lots of 8's in there, so I checked 8. 8 cubed does equal 5/12, so it is a difference of cubes. So x cubed, my a is going to be x. 5/12, my b is going to be 8. Difference of cubes says a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. 8 squared is 64. Which was b. Alright, we had the problem like number 14 on our last unit test where we did somewhere we were going with the current and against the current. This one it's with the wind and against the wind, but it's still the distance, rate, and time problem. There you go, what we need there. So I'll make my table. Alright, says jet travels with the wind and against the wind, so I did a with wind and against the wind. Had my distance, rate, and time. Alright, so let's see what we got. 1,200 miles with the wind. Turns around and goes 1,000 miles against the wind. We don't know how fast he's going, but we know the speed is 50 miles an hour. So if he's going with the wind, that's speeding him up. So you take his speed and you add 50 miles an hour. If he's going against the wind, it slows him down. So you take his speed and you subtract 50 miles an hour. We know distance equals rate times time. So time would be distance divided by rate. Now we had some of these in class where it said the times were the same, so we got just to set those equal to each other and cross multiply. You can't do that here. It says the total flight took 4 hours. So that means our time with the wind plus our time against the wind equals 4. So you're going to set this up as 1,200 over x plus 50 plus 1,000 over x minus 50 is equal to 4. Okay, now your dilemma is you need a common denominator. Or you can just get rid of the fractions altogether. It's kind of the same process. The denominator that you would use would be the product of x plus 50 and x minus 50. So we're going to multiply this whole thing by x plus 50, it's a 0 there, and x minus 50. When we go to the 1,200, the x plus 50s will cancel out. So we'll have to do 1,200 times x minus 50. When we go to the 1,000, the x minus 50s will cancel out. So we'll have to do 1,000 times x plus 50. When we go to the 4, nothing cancels out. Alright, so let's scoop that up because we've still got some work to do on this. Start distributing on that. You got 1,200x minus 60,000. Yeah, this one was 60. 60. And here you got 1,000x, 50,000. I'm going to go ahead and finish cleaning this side up before I go to the equal side. That 1,200x and 1,000x, that, that gets me 2,200x. And then negative 60 and 50 there gets me negative 10. Alright, then when I go on the right side with the x plus 50, x minus 50, you're going to FOIL that, x plus 50, x minus 50. Then whatever you get, you got to distribute that 4 to. Okay, so that ends up getting you, and you can check this on your own, that ends up getting you 4x squared minus 10,000. Okay, now I can show you that FOIL if you need me to, but that's what it ends up getting you on that. Okay, so now you got quadratic. So when you start moving stuff over, the good news is when you add that 10,000 to both sides, it just cancels out altogether. So I've got 4x squared minus 2,200x is equal to nothing. Okay, I'm going to take a 4x out to make my life a little simpler. I'll do that. That leaves me with x minus 550 is equal to 0. Now that if you set both of those equal to 0 and solve, 4x equals 0 is not useful to you because you're trying to find how fast the plane's flying. The plane's not flying if it's going 0 miles an hour. So you can throw that one out. So all you've got left to solve there is the x minus 550 equals 0. So if x minus 550 equals 0, how fast is the plane flying? 550 miles an hour. So that's how fast it would go with no wind at all. Is that what the question asked, or do we gotta, the speed of the plane, yeah. Alrighty. I think it was the second day of school we did these types of numbers, and we got that question on 15 and then again on the back page somewhere, maybe not the back page. Oh, 22. So we've got types of numbers on both of those. On 15, those dot dot dots are important that it gives you. Got dot dot dot, -3. Dot, dot, dot. Alright, dot, dot, dot on both ends means that pattern keeps repeating on both ends. And what we notice about the numbers that we have in the set is that they're whole numbers, so that means we're dealing with integers. So if we start going through these choices, A says x is any integer greater than -3. Well, it is any integer, and all of these are greater than -3. But this pattern, this dot, dot, dot right here means it keeps going smaller than that. So A is no bueno. Mark A out. B says it's a natural number. We made a Venn diagram of the different types of numbers, and natural numbers did not include negatives. Remember, those were those little baby numbers that they learned to count with in preschool. So B would be out. C says it goes from -3 to 3. Well, this does, but it's also got the ellipses there telling you it keeps going. So C's no good. D says it's an integer. An integer just means a positive or a negative whole number. That has every positive and negative whole number covered with those dot, dot, dots. So D is the best answer on 15. Yep. Alrighty. Got another inequality on 16. Got 2x plus, come on, paper. There we go. 2x plus 8 times. Alright, distribute your 8. So you got 2x plus 8x minus 40. Now, like terms there, 2x and 8x is 10x. Okay, now if you started trying to solve this, if you subtracted 10x, that goes away there and there, so I'm left with something that says -40 is greater than -9. I have no variable left, so I'm just trying to decide if that's a true statement or not. If it's a true statement, that means there's infinite many solutions. If it's false, that means there's no solution. So is -40 greater than -9? No, so that's false, so that means no solution, which means C. (17), this, whatever unit this one was on, this same question was on the test twice, I remember it. Find an ordered pair that gives the approximate sales in June of 2006. So June, you count the number of months is 6. Then you find 6 on the x-axis and follow that up to the 2006 graph, and it's between 48 and 52. So I'm going to say about 50, which looks like D. Alright, we hinted about number 18 earlier, but it's got some funny words we need to be reminded about. It's been a while since we've used them. It says a graph of two linear functions, f and g, that are neither parallel, so they're not parallel, parallels have no solution, that are neither parallel nor, that word, coincident, that means it's the same line that has infinite many solutions. So if there's a choice to have no solution, there's a choice to be coincident, and you might want to write down that word by that, so you know what that's talking about. Coincident has infinite many solutions. The other option that we've already written down for lines is that they have one solution. So on number 18, it would have to be B, one solution. Now, first period, somebody said, well, what would two intersections look like? Two lines cannot intersect two times. They wouldn't be lines if they did. Right? I mean, how can you make two lines intersect? You can't. More than once, right? Y'all, they didn't understand that. Do y'all understand that? I mean, you'd have to start like getting into shapes or parabolas or something to have two intersections. Alright, 19. Just had to remember your negative exponent rule. Anytime you have a negative power, put it in the opposite spot and make it positive. So it'll be 1 over r to the 5th. $20 says solve by factoring, and you could actually solve it a few different ways. You could solve it just by algebraically, you could solve it factoring, or you could solve it using quadratic formula. Doesn't matter to me. I did it first period factoring because that's what the directions said. Did anybody do it algebraically? No? Okay, I'll go ahead and factor it in. I'll take a negative 2 out. That'll leave me with b squared minus 25. Now my negative 2 is a dummy answer because negative 2 doesn't equal 0, so you can just forget about that. B squared minus 25 is a difference of squares. It would factor as b plus 5, b minus 5. So when you set both of those equal to 0, it gets you negative 5. And positive 5. Which was A. When we did variation problems in class, we actually had to write out the equation and solve them, but this one is way easier than that. It's just common sense. It wants us to decide whether or not it's direct or inverse. And when you're reading a scenario like on number 21, trying to decide, your decision is if the stuff goes in the same direction, it'll be direct. Like if both things are going up or both things are going down. But if two things are going opposite ways, opposite, remember, is inverse. So that's what you're deciding on. So when you read 21, the number of hours worked and the amount of your paycheck. Well, the longer you work, the more you get paid. So they're both going up, so it would be a direct variation. If you're working longer hours and getting paid less, you need to look for a new job. Someone's cheating you. 22 is our other number question we were talking about. Are you ready? We got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with no dots on this one, so it doesn't go forever. It's only those whole numbers. Okay, A says an integer between 4 and 8. They are integers, but if you just say between 4 and 8, that leaves 4 and 8 out. So it can't be A. B says irrational between 3 and 9. They are all between 3 and 9, but irrational means they're not able to be fractions. Those can be fractions because you can put them over 1. So you can mark B out. C says an integer between 3 and 9. Ding, ding, ding. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Last page.
So what was 19? Very quick.
D. Alright, 23. We got a bag of marbles that has twice as many blue marbles as green marbles. So we got our greens, then our blues are twice that many. So I could say plus twice that many. And my bag has got at least 33 marbles in it. So G and 2G gives me 3G. So G has to be at least 11. So I've got at least 11 marbles. Alright, 24 is like the graph ones that we had earlier, but this one actually asked us to write the equation. Okay, they were a little bit nicer to you than they could have been because they give you the m and the b. You have to, though, be able to look at that point 0,4 and realize that that's the b, because they don't just say, hey, here's your b. 0,4, that's where it crosses the y-axis, so that means that is your y-intercept at y equals 4. It gave you your m of -3/5. So I've got a slope and I've got a y-intercept, so I'm going to start off with slope-intercept form. Now it's not going to be enough because all the choices are in standard form. But once I get my slope-intercept form, I can move it around to make it standard form. So I've got y equals m, which is -3/5 x plus b. So that gets me started. Now to get it in standard form, I'm going to move that -3/5 x over. So I'm going to add it. So I'm going to have 3/5 x plus y equals 4. Now I'm in standard form, but none of my choices have a fraction. So how do I get rid of a fraction of 5, a denominator of 5? Multiply it all by 5. So that's going to make that cancel out. It'll be 3x plus 5y equals 20. Alright, the last one, when we had the 3 equations and 3 variables and we were solving for the ordered triple, we learned how to do them by hand using elimination and then on our calculator using a matrix. And I let you choose whichever way you wanted. This one is ugly, ugly, ugly with all the fractions, so I would for certain do it on a calculator. So I'm going to show you what you would have to have your calculator say, and then I'll give you a second to mess with your calculator, make sure you can still get it. Okay, when you type this in the calculator, you're doing a matrix, and on the big matrix, you're doing the coefficients of the x, y, z, so it has to be a 3 by 3. To bring a matrix menu up, you're going to hit alpha zoom, and then change it to a 3 by 3. Okay, but here's what you got to put in your 3 by 3. Your first row of x, y, z is 1/3, 1/6. -2/3. Look at your paper, see, know where those numbers are coming from. Your second row of your x, y, z is -3/5, -1/3, -1/5. Then your last row in your x, y, z is 1/2, 3/2, and 3/4. Okay, everybody know where those numbers came from? Then when we use our calculator on this, and you'll have a chance to find you one that works if you couldn't find one because you need to practice this. You take the inverse of that. Okay, that's right below the math button, I think, on the far left side, x to the -1. And then you do the answer matrix, which will be a 3 by 1. And your answers are, look at what's on the right side of the equal sign, -3, 4, and 14. And then you'll just hit enter. Now, I did this morning when I was working on it, and look at your answer choices. They're not pretty. So my answers came up as a bunch of mumble-jumbled decimals, but then I needed fractions. So I hit math, enter, enter to turn them to fractions. So mess with that a minute, check and see if you can get it. The correct answer is A, so go ahead and circle that, but then you need to mess with it and make sure you can still get it. And let me know if you need help pushing some buttons.
What's the inverse button again?
On the far left, right below math, the x to the -1, right there where your thumb is. No, yep. Now hit alpha zoom again, there you go. 3 by 1, you're rocking. Okay, that's it. If you need help getting that, let me know and I'll help you, but that's it.